very good afternoon to the chairpersons on the dais and friends. My previous speakers have actually made my talk very easy, but maybe a little boring because they've shown such beautiful illustrative cases. And my talk is basically algorithm based. So we need to understand that if you get a suspected case of infection in the presence of an intramedullary nail, how do we go about it? So as we have all discussed, long bone fractures are high energy injuries. With a lot of times the overlying soft tissues are compromised. They can be open injuries or there may be internal degloving. So these fractures need to be managed aggressively. Intramedullary nailing is a preferred modality of internal fixation in closed and sometimes in open injuries, especially in the diaphyseal fractures. The advantages being that you get a close management of the fracture, almost a close management. You don't have to open the fracture milieu. There's a very minimum compromise of the fracture hematoma and the surrounding soft tissues, including the periosteum, which is very important for healing. Intramedullary nailing allows for early weight bearing in the lower limb fractures. However, fracture-related sepsis is an unfortunate event at times, and most series have revealed percentages from 2% to 5%. Now, this is a paper which I came across when I was doing my literature search, and this is a paper which is a multicentric compilation of data. And they have come up with a very beautiful algorithm for managing this unfortunate complication. So the old classifications had taken into consideration the location of the fracture, etc., the general condition of the patient, coexisting comorbidities, and so on. But this, in this paper, what they try to say is the temporal classification is most important, as when the patient presents to you with the infection. If the infection has been picked up early, less than 3 weeks, delayed, that is from 3 to 10 weeks, or chronic, that is if it is more than 10 weeks. Second important criteria is the status of the fracture healing. If, of course, at 3 weeks you don't expect a fracture healing, but sometimes you can get infection in an intramedullary nail where the fracture is already united and the patient comes with a very delayed infection, the fracture is already united, so there the management becomes completely different. So if there is a nail in the canal, this nail creates a dead space for bacterial growth. Unlike a plate which is on the surface of the bone, the nail is sitting right in the center of the medulla, and you can get a proliferation of bacteria not only on the surface of the implant but also inside the implant. And this dead space is the one which becomes a problem for the treating team. And in chronic cases, the presence of a biofilm on the nail, a little bit in detail about the biofilm later, it prevents antibiotic penetration, what is also called as a glycocalyx. We have to also look at the overlying soft tissue status, and if there is a resultant bone loss as a result of the infection, which has been shown very beautifully by my past speakers. So the AO Foundation and the European Bone and Joint Infection Society came up with criteria, which can either be suggestive criteria or they can be confirmatory criteria to tell us whether this patient has got an infection for sure or not. So clinical symptoms, we all go by clinical symptoms, radiological signs, osteolysis, implant loosening, visible sequestrum. But on the left-hand side of the table, if you see, this is a slightly busy slide, but I think it's a very important table. There are confirmatory criteria. If you have a clear sinus wound dehiscence, which is connecting to the bone or to the implant directly, there is a purulent discharge from the wound. And if you have at least 2 cultures showing the same species of bacteria from the depth of the wound, then surely this patient is infected. And of course, there is a histopathological evidence. Every time when you do a debridement, you have to send adequate cultures as well as material for histopathology. So if these criteria are adhered to, most times we can diagnose these well in time and we can treat them aggressively. So when you have such a case, obviously this is not a one-man show. You have to have a team which comprises of an orthopedic team. You have a plastic surgeon. A microbiologist is very, very important because to get the bug sometimes is really a problem, especially if the patient has been on antibiotic for a long time and you get the microbiologist saying no growth. You're at the end of the road. You don't know which antibiotic to start. So having a good microbiologist and having good techniques to try and harvest the bug is very, very important. And of course, if you want to use some new antibiotics, it's always good to have an infectious diseases expert on board. So this, as I said, it has to be a multidisciplinary approach. And the general condition of the patient, whether the patient is a diabetic, whether the patient has anemia, whether the patient has peripheral artery disease, these are all important things which we must keep in mind. As far as the local limb milieu is concerned, the vascularity, the status of the union, soft tissue cover and bone defects have to be kept in mind. So if it is within 3 weeks, this is a time where the biofilm, the dreaded biofilm, is not ready as yet, or it's partially formed. So if you remove the implant, you irrigate and ream or debride the canal aggressively to remove all the necrotic material. You get adequate culture in histological samples. You can do a one-stage exchange nailing with a larger diameter nail. And of course, you have to initiate parenteral antibiotics with either a central line, or if you want, you can put in a peripheral line, which has got a central axis, what is called as a PIC line, the peripherally inserted central line, after you've got samples harvested for culture and sensitivity. A common mistake is the patient is already on antibiotics and we take samples for culture. With the result, there is no growth. So it's always better to make the patient antibiotic free for a few days, at least about 10 to 12 days, which is more viable in a chronic or old case, and try and get the bug. Because once you get the culture sensitivity, only then you can target the organism. And the antibiotic cover ideally should be completed, it should be on for 12 weeks. Now, in chronic fracture related infections, the situation is totally different. You have lots of times of soft tissue cover issue. The fracture may be united or not united. There may be bone defects. So you have to opt for either a one-stage or a two-stage management. Most studies, they favor two-stage protocol, where you actually first debride well, stabilize, as the subsequent slides will show you. So what is the biofilm, this dreaded biofilm that we talk about, or also called as glycocalyx? So this is an organization of the bacteria on the surface and inside the implant, inside the hollow of the implant. This is called almost like a colony-like structure, a three-dimensional structure, which is formed by bacterial cells. And the bacterial cells themselves, they produce an extracellular matrix, which becomes like a thick network or like a, literally like a net. And this attaches onto the surface of any foreign body or any fixation implant. So if you use a stainless steel implant or if you use the titanium implant, with titanium implants, the chances of biofilm formation are slightly less, but significantly not better. There are enough studies to show that whether you use a stainless steel implant or a titanium implant, the difference is marginal. So in any case, the biofilm can get formed. And it works as a physical protective barrier, which does not allow the penetration of antibiotics and other inflammatory processes to control the infection. So getting rid of the biofilm is extremely important. So in the surgical protocol of chronic infections, adequate debridement of the overlying soft tissue, implant removal has to be done. The medullary canal has to be reamed well. It has to be debrided to remove the entire biofilm. And here the use of RIA, as we saw in the previous slides, is very, very useful. You can actually ream to one size above. Copious lavage using about 6 to 8 liters of saline. All sequestered fragments which do not have a soft tissue cover should be removed. And the fracture can be stabilized using either an external fixator, an antibiotic impregnated cement nail, coated nail, or a plate. Use of vacuum dressings and plastic surgical procedures. As you can see, this is a locally used vacuum dressing, which our plastic surgery team uses regularly for most compound injuries as well as for infected cases. This is a case showing a gastrosoleus flap, which was used to cover the soft tissue defect, after which the patient was then subjected to definitive surgery. Antibiotic cover is very, very important. It's important to identify the causative organism. And as I said, if the surgery is a planned surgery, it's better to stop antibiotics 2 weeks prior to the procedure. You have to do cultures in adequate culture medium. The bactic or the blood culture medium is an extremely good method because it tends to neutralize the antibiotics and thereby it pulls out the bacteria and you can grow the bacteria. I've already told you about the central line, either that or the PIC line, and 12 weeks duration. You can use local antibiotic elution as cement beads, coated nails, or antibiotics impregnated cement spacers like how we saw in the masculine technique. Fracture stabilization can be done by nailing, fixator, or by the methods which the previous speakers have spoken. Now, this is a case where we did a staged masculine technique, debridement. You can see the PMMA spacer, the vancomycin spacer, followed by bone grafting at a later date. So to summarize, this is a devastating complication. It needs aggressive management. It needs a team effort prolonged antibiotic cover. It's a expensive treatment, huge implications to healthcare costs. And to use a very cliched couple of sentences, prevention is better than cure, and a stitch in time saves 9. So we have to be very, very aggressive and proactive with these situations. Thank you for your attention.